Alright, welcome back to Victor's Volkswagen. So we're back at working on the Alltrack. We've been busy all summer. That's why we haven't posted any videos. I think Killer posted a couple weird videos of his rabbit. But we're going to do the carbon cleaning on the valves today. So the way that these direct injected engines work is, instead of like an older engine that would inject fuel into the intake manifold, and then that fuel would spray onto the valves and clean them constantly, so they always stay clean and the chamber would stay clean. The direct injected engines inject fuel directly into the cylinders, so those valves don't get cleaned, and the gases inside the engine over time start caking up those valves with carbon deposits, and they get pretty bad. When I did the water pump, what was that, this spring, I believe, I had the intake manifold off, and they weren't terrible. They weren't good. They're coated, but they weren't caked like some of the pictures I've seen and some of the videos I've seen on the internet. So we're going to go ahead and get that clean. So basically what that involves is kind of like sandblasting them, but instead of sand, you use a walnut media to sandblast them, and then also some carb cleaner to soak the deposits, get some of the big chunks off first, get them as clean as possible, and then we'll go in there and we'll start sandblasting them. So what you're going to need to get, and I'll post all these links to the show notes, is, and I'm doing this on the cheap. So I'm cheap, kind of on a fixed income, retired. I don't have $2,000 to just spend and take this and get it done. And I just looked it up on the internet. Approximately how much does it cost to get carbon deposits cleaned on a 2017 GTI, which is basically just like this engine, and it's anywhere from $1,700 to $2,000. You might find some independent shop that might be able to do it a little bit cheaper, but it's still going to be probably at least $1,000 at the minimum. And I just don't want to pay somebody to do it. I like doing this stuff. It's kind of fun. It's fun to learn. It's fun to show you guys. So basically, so this little sandblaster, this is all from Harbor Freight. This stuff is really cheap. This is $36, I think it is. So the walnut shell media goes in here, and then you got your hose, and you're going to need a compressor. So a medium-sized compressor will work. A real small one, you could probably do it, but you're going to have to be, because the trigger on the gun is constantly going to be pulled when you're spraying the media, and it'll suck a lot of air out of a compressor. So you could do it with a small one. You're going to have to work, stop, work, stop. I'm lucky enough to have a full-size compressor in here. This one should work pretty good and not be turning on and off, and I shouldn't have to be waiting while I'm shooting the media. So basically, this comes with this gun, hooks to this hose right here. Did a little bit of modification on this, and I'll show you guys what I did to that. Then you're also going to need the plastic piece. These come in billet aluminum that are machined. This one's like 3D printed. I got it on Amazon. I think it was like $7, usually under 10. So basically, this little piece here sits on the inlet, the air inlet. Once you take the intake manifold off, then you'll be able to look in and see the valves. This goes right over that, and it covers it. And then basically, I went and got this tube too, so you're going to need this tube. This is how you vacuum the walnut shells out as you're blasting them. This little hole is where you're going to stick this to do the blasting. And then you're vacuuming out as much as you're putting in. So then you're going to need a shop vac like this, and then just connect this tube. The reason I went to this is because it fits this really tight, and it's really nice and flexible, and it's not going to take up a bunch of room. And then I'll just like duct tape my hose to my vacuum on the end of this. So those pieces, the walnut shells, here's 25 pounds of walnut shells. And then to start the procedure, you're going to want to go in there and like knock off with a little screwdriver or pick tool some of the large carbon deposits, vacuum them out, and then we're going to end up soaking each chamber in carb cleaner for like 15-20 minutes, and then using a brush. These are nylon. A lot of people are using brass ones. Not sure, this one's pretty soft. I don't know if this is even going to work, but I thought the brass might be a little aggressive, so I got this one. So we're going to see how this works. These will end up going into a drill, so that's why they don't have an end on them or a circle on the end, and then this will be able to take the drill. So you guys will be able to see that. Other than that, I don't think there was anything else I had to buy. I am going to replace the high pressure fuel pump. This is the one that came with the car. This car has about 107,000 miles right now. And I noticed this high pressure fuel pump started making a little, I wouldn't say little, kind of a ticky noise that was not there for a long time. So I think it's starting to go on the fritz. So we're going to replace the high pressure fuel pump, and I'll show you how to do that. And then I just want to let everybody know, because I'm kind of an idiot sometimes. I took this off to kind of look at it to see if it's like it was worn out. It's really easy to get to, and it's really easy to take off. But there is a kind of like a piston with a wheel on the end. So the camshaft drives this. The camshaft has a regular lobe on the end, drives the fuel pump by pressurizing the fuel, and then that's the high pressure fuel pump, how it works. I did an idiotic thing where I took this apart. I put the plunger in backwards, put it all back together, started the car. It ran, didn't make any noise, it was weird. And I shut it off, and I started thinking to myself, I'm like, did I put that thing in the right way? Did I put it in backwards? And thought. I said, I better pull it apart. I put it in backwards. The camshaft ate the back side of it, broke some of the, I'll show you when I pull it out, broke a little bit of it, and you'll be able to see it. If you pull these off, just make sure you're putting it back the same way. Every once in a while I do like really, really stupid things, and this was a really stupid thing, so I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention that if you pull these off, make sure that you get the roller end, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I pull it out, to the camshaft. So it still works. I was able to finally get it out. It was a pain in the ass. It took me like an hour. I had to file things down because it had broke some of the metal, and I had to file it down. It's been working for the last 5,000 miles, not really making any noise. One thing is, if you got one of these TSI engines, they make a lot of ticking noises, even when they're brand spanking new. They make just the high pressure fuel pump, the valve train, it just kind of ticks. It's just a normal sound. There's a product by Liqui Moly called, I think it's called Sierra Tech. I'll post a link to it. I started using that, I think when this car was had 30,000 miles on it, somebody recommended it to me, and put that stuff in. Within a day, that ticking noises went to almost nothing. And you use this product every 40,000 miles. It's got like ceramic lubricant in it. I'm not sure how it works. I think it attaches to the metal in the engine. It's some kind of a lubricant. It quiets these TSI engines down considerably. So I highly recommend it. I've done it 3 times now. Used it 3 times, about right at every 40,000 miles. The stuff is great. I use Liqui Moly oil on this engine. With my scanner, you're able to find out how much the timing chain is stretched. And this one has 107,000 miles, and there is barely any stretch at all. I'll do a video. I got a brand new scan tool, and it's so much better than OBD11. OBD11, if you have that scan tool, is great. It reads codes, it's good. But I bought a newer one, and maybe I'll do a whole video on that. I'm still learning how to use it. It's a nice one. But Liqui Moly, Sierra Tech, Liqui Moly oil, and I have this feeling this engine is going to go for over 200,000 miles. So it's running great. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the camera a little bit closer, and I'll show you some of the modifications I made to the gun. Okay, so I wanted to show a little bit of a close-up of what I have done to the sandblasting gun. to make it a little bit easier to use. So the gun basically looks like this, and has this little ceramic insert at the end. I would imagine it's ceramic, so that can handle you know, sandblasting, so these still get worn out. I would assume if it's made out of metal, it'd probably get destroyed. But basically what I've done, so here is the 3D printed plastic piece that's going to go over the opening for the chamber where the valves are in. And like I said, obviously we're going to put a vacuum hose on it. But what I did is I made this extension for the gun, and I've got to figure out exactly how to get it mounted on here. I actually have been using it. So basically all this is a brake line, and I think this was from like a Chevy, like a Chevy truck. So it's a little bit larger diameter, and then this is just the threaded brake line fitting. So I flared the end of it. If you have a flaring tool, you can trumpet kind of flare the end of that. And then this just sits, I got some electrical tape, kind of sits in here real tight. I'm probably just going to have to like tape that on. But what this gives me is and I'm copying this from another gentleman on YouTube, and I'll post his video because he gave me this idea, is when you're sandblasting, you need to move around as much as possible to get behind the valves. So this allows me to get in there and then move it and get it back to like where the valves are. So if it was just going to be using just this ceramic piece, as you can see, it didn't even fit in there. So I would be having to move it like this, and the valves are back quite a few inches, and it's going to miss a lot of stuff. So by doing this, you can see how it's going to get back, and I can move it a lot farther. So yeah, so that's what I did with this. And then just another close-up. These are the nylon brushes. They're a little bit softer than I wanted when I ordered them. They're somewhat rigid, but this is going to go on a drill. So this will be spinning all the time. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to close the valves. We're going to spray some carb cleaner in there. Let it soak into some of the carbon deposits, and then before we do any walnut blasting, we're going to clean the valves as good as possible. There's a lot of videos, so here's another option if you're on a real low budget. There's a lot of videos where there's just people that use like wire brushes, brass brushes, the drill, hand brushes. I've seen a video where somebody used zip tie ends. I think it was the Humble Mechanic, one of the guys on YouTube. So you don't have to get the Walnut Blaster and the vacuum and all that stuff. You can clean these by hand. It will just take longer, and the Walnut Blaster does a really good job. You'll see when I get done, I'm hoping they're like brand new. So yeah, just wanted to show that. Yeah, that's it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm not going to do a video of the intake removal of the intake manifold because I've already done that with the water pump. I'm going to post a link to the Charles, the Humble Mechanic. He does a great removal video on this where you don't have to get underneath the car and take a bunch of charge pipe off and drain coolant and do a bunch of different things. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. I'm going to pull that off, and when I get to that point, I'll show you how we're going to get the valves closed in each cylinder, and I'll film not every single thing, but everything that's going to be important to you wanting to learn how to do this. And like I said, it's the first time I've done it, so I'm going to be learning as we go. So when there's something that goes awry, I'll let you guys know. I'll point it out. So I'm going to get started. Okay, so for those of you, I just wanted to show these little pain in the ass clips. So the way I get these off, you can use a pick tool, but these a little like, okay, so this little gray tab here needs to pull towards me to be able to pull the connector off. You just got to be careful. You can grab it with needle pliers and it'll pop out just like that. Then you have to pinch it. Let's see if I can show that with your finger. Then you pinch this gray tab in. See how it moves? Just a little bit, and that unclips it, and then you can pull it back. Just like that. So I just wanted to post that because the first time I did this, I had a pain. Those were a pain in the ass. I think Volkswagen has the worst electrical connectors in the industry. And if anybody from Volkswagen actually watches this video, please, please, please work on your connectors. And I know you're probably going to start building all electric cars, but yeah, this is an issue. So, all right, just wanted to post that. Okay, so take number 4. All right, so we got the intake manifold off, and it came off real easy, and you don't need to remove that charge or the intake. That can stay there, but this bracket right here, and it's really hard to see. No, down on that this bracket is a triple square. God, I wish I could see that down in there. Let's see if I shine a light. Well, I can't show it, but you can see it from up top. It's a triple square, and it is an M9 triple square. So they look like that. It's M9. That's something you're going to need because it ends up that stud on the intake. Here's the front of the intake manifold with the air intake. That stud goes in right here, and when it's tight, you can't get the intake manifold off. It's too tight. So, but I was able to get in there with this setup here. So 3/4 3/8 drive, long extension, and then there's the M9 triple square, and then a swivel on it to get to it. Now, another way you can get to it, and I did this when I did the water pump. Okay, so one thing I wanted to add, so this is the next day, was going through and I was editing the video, and I forgot that one thing I learned pulling the intake manifold off, you do not have to take the high pressure fuel line off, loosen it, or anything to get the intake manifold off on this car. I don't know if the GTIs are different, Golf R's. The Humble Mechanic, in his video, he loosens it and basically it looks like he takes it off. So I assumed that had to come off, like it was interlocked into some kind of the hoses or the plastic or something. But you do not have to loosen it or take it off. The intake manifold will come up and move out of the way. That'll save you a bunch of time, and you won't need this stubby little wrench. So I had included that in the first part of the video, but I wanted to come back and edit this in to let you know you do not need to take that off. Get an idea of where that's at here. And then another thing that I noticed is these electrical connectors that are on here. There's 2, and they kind of go, oh, sorry. They go up and then they plug in. Well, they don't really plug in, but there's a holder on the intake manifold. You can see those. Those slide right in. So you can just take a screwdriver, and on this back side, so the plugs slide in. I'll show you where the sliders are. These right here. These are the sliders that slide into that channel. You can just take, let me get my, sorry, trying to hold this. So basically what, let's see if I can see it. Okay, here we go. Basically what you do, because those things slide in, you just pry like this, and they'll just slide right out. They kind of lock in there with this little point right here, these little points, but they slide right out. Otherwise, you have to come in here and you can take out these nuts, but they're a pain to get back in. So it's just better just to slide those connectors out. This piece I left. So this is this vacuum tube that comes off the intake manifold. I tried to disconnect it here. I thought I was going to frickin' break something. So I left this connected, and then I took a photograph of how it was basically put back in, which is basically just on the other side, like where my finger's at. It just goes right through here and comes up on this back side. So I left that on because I didn't want to break it, because I figure if I break the connector on that thing, then I got to go buy a new intake manifold. So other than that, pretty basic to get off. Oh, another thing, this coolant pipe here, here's the hose for it right here. There's barely, sorry, so it's this coolant line. It goes over the top of the manifold right here, and it goes into this pipe right here. There's barely any coolant that comes out. So when you pull this off, just put a little rag. Literally only a few drops came out. It's higher than the reservoir, so there's really no coolant that's going to come pouring out of here, and it's right on top, and it's in the way. So don't worry about pulling that off. It's not going to be pouring coolant out. You won't need to drain your coolant. Those are the only thing I can think of. Don't forget, on the high pressure fuel line, there's a clamp here, and it's got a threaded nut that threads into the plastic. So it's like a pointy, it's like a screw basically, and it threads into the intake manifold. I dropped the bolt. Somewhere in the abyss down here is a bolt. Ooh, is that it? That couldn't be it. No way. Am I that lucky? Hold on just a second. I think I see it. It dropped. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh, okay. Got her back. Yes. Okay, we'll put that back in here. All right, other than that, so I just wanted to show you the valves. So here's the plates. These are the little plates, and these sit right in here. I don't know what these do. Some kind of air, divides the air or something. So these little plates sit in there. They just come right out. And these pins face outward on these. If you see those pins, they face outward. These aren't too bad, as you can see. Little bit of carbon. So this has 107,000 miles. So I'll get these cleaned up. There's all the set of them there. There's the intake manifold there. And then I'll show you. Let me get my light. Sorry, Keller's not with me, so I'm by myself. So that's what we're looking at. I mean, they're not like terrible. I've seen really bad. We could probably go even longer with these, and it wouldn't be an issue. It still looks like it would be breathing pretty good. You can see the valves, but on top, that's where they're kind of yucky. You can see the yuckies. So yeah, so what I'm gonna do is then the next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead. I'm gonna pull the coils out, and I'm gonna show you how to get them each cylinder to make sure that it's closed, because you don't want to be, spraying carb clean in there and scrubbing if the valves are open a little bit, because then all that's going to pour down into the cylinder and then onto the piston, and it's going to get burnt up. And I don't want to do that. So I'm going to pull the coils, and I'll show you. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the way this engine works, I think there's either 2 or 3 cylinders that are closed at the same time, like these 3. Not sure, but I'm going to do each one, and it's simple, and I'll show you. That way I can make sure they're 100%, the valves are closed, and we can spray the carb cleaner in there and start. All right, so now I'm getting each piston, each cylinder on top dead center. So that's when the piston's at its highest point and the valves will be completely closed. So the way you do that is so I removed the coils. The coils are all removed. They're easy to remove. These are a little bit tight, but this is how you unclip them. It always helps to press these forward a bit, this whole assembly. Push it forward because they can get dirty and bound up, and then you just take your kind of a thumbnail or your finger and pull back on that, and then these slowly slide off. You have to unbolt these from the coil packs. They've got that thing with these little studs right there, and then you just pull them out. Make sure you get some kind of grease when you reinstall these or when you change the spark plugs. These came out pretty easy, but the stock ones that were in there when I first changed the spark plugs, oh my God, they were stuck, and you feel like you're just going to rip the boots off. So I use a little lithium grease on these around the seal there, and then around the seal that goes into the spark plug, and on these little shafts right there. That keeps them from sticking because they can be a pain. And I've watched videos where people get those stuck in there and they're trying to retrieve them out of there so they can get to the spark plugs. Pain in the ass. Another bullshit Volkswagen crappy design, but it is what it is. Okay, so to get it on top dead center, so now I've got this extension, 3/8, goes down so the spark plug's out. It goes down, it hits the top of the piston, and then down below here I've got a wrench. So another thing you're going to get, and I'll put this in the description, I forgot, you need a 24 millimeter socket to spin the crankshaft because you're going to have to rotate the crankshaft to get the pistons up and down. So basically what you do, let's see if I can show you here, is you can see how these slowly move. Now that one's going down, so I'm just going to reverse it. But basically, you just rotate the wrench and the crankshaft until this stops moving up. If it goes up and then it goes down, then you've gone too far. It'll come up and it'll stop for a brief second, and then it'll start going down. If you go another stroke down, you're going to open the valves back up. So you want to rotate the crankshaft, and you want to make sure that when you rotate the crankshaft that you rotate it clockwise. The bolt's on pretty damn tight. I don't think you're going to like loosen it. If you have to go back, slightly, you can, but it's always going to be best to go clockwise. So basically you'd be like tightening the crankshaft bolt, and that way there's no chance of it getting loose. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. So I've got this one now at top dead center, and the valves inside are closed, and then so I'm going to go ahead and spray the carb cleaner in, and we're going to let it soak. I'll film it. Okay, so now we're going to spray some carb cleaner in here. Oop, trying to get this light to work. It's really hard to see down in here, but what I've done so far is I've got a towel down here, and I'm going to go ahead and shoot carb cleaner in here. Make sure it's not bleeding down. Nope, it's filling up. And go ahead and spray all over. Let it fill up full of carb cleaner. Okay, so now what we're going to do, it's all full. It's hard to see. Even with this bright light, it's hard to see, but basically it's now a pool in there of carb cleaner. And we're going to let that sit for 15 minutes. And then I'm going to take the nylon brushes and my drill and we're going to go ahead and start cleaning them. So I'm going to let that sit and then we'll be back. All right, so I sprayed the carb cleaner in cylinder number 1 and it's been pooled up in there for about 15 minutes. We're going to give the old brush a try. I don't know what it's going to do. I got this towel I cut for here. I don't want to make a big mess. I have this bad feeling this is going to make a big mess, but we're going to give it a shot. I'm going to go in here real slow first and see if we can't get some of the gunk out of there, get it somewhat clean, and then we'll try the blaster, the Walnut Blaster. So it appears this brush is just way too big to get behind the valve, but I think it's cleaning a little bit, and it's wanting to get stuck. I don't know how good this is going to work, but there's a lot of fluid in there, and I'm thinking that the same setup, but with a brass, smaller diameter brush, so you could get behind the valve. This is literally just kind of bumping into them. I don't really even know if it's doing anything, but let's see here. Where's my flashlight? Here it is in my pocket. So let's see. Okay, it's definitely gotten dirty, and I don't know if you guys can see, but compared to this one, let's see. Can you guys see that? Let me put this down here. So it is starting to clean. So you can see at least the aluminum part of it. Here's the yucky ones. So it is definitely, the carb cleaner is definitely helping. You can see absolutely how clean that is and how gunky the pool of fluid has just turned to bleh. So I'm going to keep doing this for a while longer, and then I'm going to vacuum everything out, and I'll show you what it looks like after I vacuum all the gunk liquid out, and then we'll go ahead and start blasting and see how that works. Okay, so we've got all the carb cleaner sucked out. So just one thing to note, you know, I'm using a shop vac to suck carb cleaner out of here. Is probably not the smartest thing to do because it's got an electric motor in it. There's not very much carb cleaner. So if you're using a shop vac, you know, keep a fire extinguisher around. I always have one in the garage. But it sucked it out fine. Nothing caught fire. So let's see. Yeah, there's still a lot of gunk on the tops and the back. So the brush I got was too big. This is my phone. This is an old phone. You can kind of see. Okay, so so hard to see with my phone. Let's try to change the. Let's see if that helps. So there's still a lot of gunk. There's still a lot of gunk on the valves. There's a lot of gunk up underneath, which you can't really see. So we're going to just move forward to the walnut blasting. It definitely helped. Definitely cleaned that aluminum compared to this one, where the aluminum is still all gunked up. But it's getting there. So now we're going to go ahead and start walnut blasting. I'll go ahead and film the walnut blasting for the cylinder number 1, so you guys can see kind of in real time how long it takes me. So we're going to get started on that. Okay, so here's my setup. So we've got the shop vac here. We've got the Walnut Blaster here, full of the walnut shells. Over to compressor line. So the Walnut Blaster has a tube that comes in. Just need to make sure that this thing doesn't kink. If it kinks, it won't flow through. So hopefully this Harbor Freight thing is, you know, kind of cheesy, but we'll see if it works. And then so from the shop vac, then I've got my clear hose, which is nice to have a clear hose like this so you can actually see the media blasting out. And then I've got my gun with the extension on here, and I'll be able to rotate it around and clean behind the valves. So let me put this in here in the stand. Sorry, I don't have color to help me. Okay, let me give it a shot. Okay, sorry, the compressor's still running, but holy crap, for just a few minutes, you know, like a minute, look at how clean those are. Even this one's kind of clean, but this one, it's almost done. Like I could probably hit it a little bit more on the top. But right there, it is just shiny clean. Holy crap. Alright, so there's that one. So now I'm going to move over. Sorry about that, the compressor is going, but this left one is like shiny clean all the way to the valve seat, and that one would almost be like good to go. So I just need to hit this one. So I'm not sure. I think the carb cleaner is definitely probably softening this stuff up. But yeah, look at that. Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to do the right-hand valve, and then I'll show you the results, and then we'll move on to cylinder 2. Okay, so holy crap. I mean, this went so fast. It literally took me a minute to do each side. There's a little teeny bit of deposits on the back side of the top by the valve guide, but I mean, they're like nice and clean. So that definitely works. The walnut blasting, I think, is there... Okay, I think that's just walnut shells on that back side, that little pile behind the valve. Might have to hit it again with the vacuum, but here is the other side. Here's this side. So it definitely does work, and this low budget Harbor Freight thing works fantastic. So yeah, we're going to move on to the second cylinder and third and fourth, and then I'll go ahead and take a quick video, and then we'll clean the little flaps. Don't forget to clean the little flaps that slide in there. I'll probably walnut blast those too. I was going to scrub them with the carb cleaner, but that's how fast this is working. So the top, you can see how nice it is on the top. So nice, super excited. That came out great. All right, okay, I'm gonna keep going. All right, so I've just got the third one done. So what I started doing is taping up the ones that were already done, because when the nozzle's in, when you have the nozzle in, you need to let it sit with the vacuum running for about 15 seconds after you turn the trigger off. Otherwise, a bunch of unused walnut shells sit in the stem, and then when you pull it out, they want to go flying everywhere. So this one came out pretty good. This valve on the right, it's got a white like haze. I don't know what it is. I have blasted and blasted. You can kind of see it there. It's very clean. I mean, it's like super clean, but it's got that haze. I might try to hit it one more time. But you can see this one, how clean that one is. And one thing I'm noticing when you're cleaning these, you can see the valve seats. I don't know if you can see that back there. You can see the ring of the valve seat. You need to make sure that that is clean all the way around it. And in the front, well, you can't kind of see, I've been using a little pick. This little pick right here. And I've been getting down in here and digging. And you'll feel some little spots. But once you get it sandblasted, walnut blasted, to where you can kind of see that seat in the back. It's a dark color. So the aluminum is the one color, and then the seat. So you just want to make sure, because a lot of deposits will sit around that ring, and you just need to keep working it and keep working it. The pick helps break it up really good, and then you can go there with the walnut blaster and it blasts it all out, and then you can suck it out. So it's coming out pretty darn good. You can see the valve guides there, and up in there a lot of stuff wants to sit too. Is kind of a cup where the bronze valve guide comes in. Sorry, my phone's shaking and it's old. Yeah, get up in that area there. So yeah, if you need to get a little pick tool at Harbor Freight, it's be a really good time to get one, because you can kind of get up in there with the little pick tools, like a dental tool, and then you can kind of pick some of that carbon out, and it seems to fall right apart. I think soaking it with carb cleaner is helping a lot. I think it really softens that stuff up. Oh, my phone is all blurry now. So, all right. Oh, that is so weird. But yeah, going good. Gonna hit the fourth one. So right now, with the carb cleaner and the walnut blasting, it's taken about 20 minutes per hole. So it's going pretty good. Once I got a little routine going, I'm not getting very much walnut shells out here. There's a teeny bit. This is what happens when you pull that nozzle out too soon. It kind of wants to spray, but I'm just going to vacuum it all up. But that's why I started taping up each hole That way I'm not having to worry about stuff getting back in there after I've vacuumed it all out. Okay, so I'm going to finish the last one and put the new high pressure fuel pump on, and then we're going to go ahead and finish up. Okay, so I'm all done with all the valves, and they came out pretty damn good. I'm pretty happy with the way everything came out. So we're all cleaned all the way down to the valve seats. There was this one valve, and I don't know why, but it's got like a, I don't know what it is. It's some kind of deposit, I guess. But the other ones like came out real nice and shiny. So pretty damn good. Pretty happy with the way that the chambers all came out. So yeah, so now I'm just gonna put everything back together. So one thing I learned on the sandblasting is when you're blasting, and I think I might have said this earlier, is to turn the gun off, trigger off, and let it sit under vacuum with the vacuum for about 10 to 15 seconds. Because if you pull the gun out real quick, there's not only a lot of walnut shells, there's a bunch in that little stem that I made, the brake line stem, and it was flying all over the place. And I was trying to do this without having to, like, you know, tape up everything and cover the engine in plastic. I just didn't want to do that because that's a whole, you know, big deal. But yeah, it came out really good, and I'm excited about putting it back together. Got the new high pressure fuel pump back in. Gonna just put it all back together and see how she goes. So see, maybe might have a little more oomph now that we got them cleaned out, got some better airflow. So it'd be interesting to see if I can notice anything sitting in the seat, if it feels a little bit quicker. So I'll do another video of driving it. All right, so the car's been sitting here for a few days. And so after I cleaned the valves, put everything back together, started driving the car, I was getting a misfire in cylinder number 4. Changed the coil, changed the plug, still misfire in cylinder number 4. So I concluded that something was going on with one of the fuel injectors, which is really kind of strange because the car was running fine before I did the valve cleaning. So I initially thought that some of the walnut shells had got into the combustion chamber and had plugged up the fuel injector. So I found a company here in Clackamas. We live south of Portland, Oregon, and found this company called Injector Masters, and they specialize in basically cleaning, selling injectors of all types. And so I brought my injectors in, I numbered them all, and sure enough, after a day or two of testing, they found out that the one, number 4, was bad. It was working sometimes and it wasn't working, and that's exactly what was happening when I drove the car. I would drive it, it seemed fine, and all of a sudden it would start bucking and shaking, and the check engine light would come on, it would go into limp mode, and I'd have to nurse it back to the house. And I kept driving the car for over and over, thinking that maybe if there's some walnut shell in there that it'll just eventually burn out and clear up, but it didn't happen. Something just happened to happen with the injector, and I don't know why, but just some weird random thing. The one thing that it could have been, and I'm not sure, but when I put it all back together, tried to start the car, it wouldn't start. It was cranking and cranking. I thought, well, it's going to have to build up fuel pressure. So it took quite a while, and then I realized that I forgot to plug in the throttle body. So I was doing a lot of no-start cranking of the engine. I don't think that would hurt an injector. Maybe it not being plugged in overloaded a circuit or something. I'm not sure. So got all 4 injectors. One of them was replaced. So to clean these injectors, and this company does a great job. I went on their website. If you go on to Injector Masters, and there'll be injector shops in a town near you. You could probably send them off to somebody. You could ship them and send them off. But they go through and they do multiple tests. They do handwritten report. There's a handwritten report here of all the flow testing, the duty cycle, I mean everything. They do a ton of tests. They make sure that they're clean. They clean them first. They do the test. They make sure that they're all injecting the exact same amount of fuel. If you have injectors that are not injecting the same amount of fuel, or they're clogged with carbon deposits, you're going to get a little bit of a rough idle. The car might feel like it's not running good. So I'm going to go ahead, put the new injectors in, and they're all resealed too. So that's another thing. Once you take an injector out of a direct injected engine or a Volkswagen engine, the seal that's on the end that goes into the combustion chamber has to be replaced, because as you pull them out, you're damaging them and you need to replace them. And this company resealed everything, all the O-rings, those little ones that go to the combustion chamber. There's a little plastic kind of standoff thing that broke when I pulled a couple of them out. They replaced those, so they're like brand new. Now, if you wanted to, so a good thing to do is if you're going to do the carbon cleaning, it's probably not a bad idea to either send the injectors out, get them tested, or if you have the money, I think it's right around $550 to buy new injectors. And one thing I noticed, be careful, because I was on eBay, and the gentleman, when he bought this one, he got the part from the dealership, and he got quite a discount. I was seeing it for about almost $200 on Volkswagen's site, and he was able to get it kind of like a dealer price, because he's running a shop. He charged me $130, so maybe he made $10-15 on it. I don't know, but be careful on eBay. I'm seeing a ton of counterfeit parts. I saw 4 of these injectors on eBay for $200, and that just seems a little fishy to me. I don't get it. So be careful. I would trust going to the dealer. One weird thing that I think is crazy, I looked up these injectors on Volkswagen's site, and the Golf R injectors are $160. The Alltrack one was $329. So I don't get that. I don't know if you could use Golf R injectors. I don't think so. We got different displacement engine. Don't think it would work. But yeah, not a bad idea to go ahead, replace the injectors, clean them. You got the valves, you got the intake off, everything's accessible. Go ahead and do it. I got new spark plugs. If you're going to do it, go ahead and do it. So, all right, so I'm going to put this back together and take it for a test drive, and I'll let you know what I find out. All right, so took the car for a drive. It is running amazing, idling amazing. It's got more power. It just feels smoother. The power band is smoother, so getting the injectors clean made a huge difference. So yeah, it's running great. No check engine lights. Super happy with the way she's running right now. Like I said in the last video I did before I drove it, that with the injectors, so like I said, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and replace the injectors. So I did some research last night and found some pretty good prices on injectors at reputable shops. So like I said, the gentleman that cleaned my injectors, he bought it from the dealership here in town, charged me $130 on Volkswagen's website. Like I said, Golf R injectors were $160. They've got the Alltrack injectors listed for a little bit over $300. So he must have got a really good discount. But I was able to find the exact Bosch injectors with the Volkswagen part number from FPC Euro, ECS Tuning, very reputable dealers that wouldn't sell counterfeit products for as low as $60. So, you could do all of them and it wouldn't cost that much money. I'll post links to those 2 that I found. Parts Geek, all about the same. It's all around, anywhere from $58 to like $70 for certified Bosch injectors. I would really trust buying them from FPC Euro or ECS Tuning, Parts Geek. I've had pretty good luck, but you just don't know if some of their stuff might be counterfeit. So, but yeah, it's running great. The Walnut Blasting made a big difference, mainly on the upper power band. I really feel it pulling a lot harder than it was before. It's idling super smooth now. I used to be able to feel a slight vibration and the idle was up a little bit higher than when we bought the car, and now it's back to like it's running like when we bought the car. It's running great. So yeah, I'll post those links, and yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, share it. I'll post the other videos I was talking about, some of the other people like Charles the Humble Mechanic, who did a great video on the intake removal. I've now done the intake removal when I did the water pump, when I did the walnut blasting, and I made a stupid mistake putting this together a few days ago. I put the brand new injectors in. They have little clips that go on the injectors before you put the fuel rail in. Well, yes, and they have a little metal clip. Make sure you don't forget it, because I forgot the metal clips. I put it almost all back together, realized the clips were sitting up here, had to pull it all apart. But I've got it down to where I can take the intake manifold off this car in like 15-20 minutes. So it's really pretty easy. Charles the Humble Mechanic does a great video. There's a couple videos I watched where they were taking the charge pipe off the throttle body and unbolting stuff underneath the car. You don't need to do that. You do not need to do that. So yeah, like and subscribe, and hope you enjoyed. Thanks.